Halo 4 Reflow is a mod created by Dead Connection. This mod improves the gameplay and visuals of the pretty controversial Halo 4 by making the gameplay feel sleeker and fun, whereas the visuals have been cleaned up a bit. You'll see the title Reflow or Original on the bottom of the screen, alleviating any doubt as to what version of the game you're looking at. Though throughout this video, it'll be pretty obvious for long-term Halo fans. In the original version of Halo 4, there is an excessive amount of visual flare from bloom, lens flares, and god rays. So this mod, Halo 4 Reflow, as you can see here, diminishes that glaring amount of luminescence. Admittedly, I hadn't played the Halo 4 campaign in a while, but having played the original and this mod back to back over the past couple days, I found there is a lot to appreciate what this mod does. Not only has the visual presentation been altered, but a simple change in gameplay perspective has been implemented, and it's one of my favorite things about this mod. That is, the thruster pack maintains your first-person view. While this is something we are already familiar with in Halo 5 Guardians, in this case it makes Halo 4's gameplay seem more natural, like there is a more graceful flow and ease as you move around the map, trying to counter the enemies, in this case the hunters. In the original version, you'll remember the thruster pack will quickly send your camera into a third-person view of the Master Chief before quickly throwing you back into first-person mode. Inherently, your camera could get pinned up against a wall, making the feature seem like a visual annoyance if you use it in close quarters, where it's available. Add this abrupt change in camera perspective to the visually noisy lighting, then I feel like just rushing through an encounter, and the entire level for that matter, as quickly as possible. Here it seems like Michael Bay is trying to fight me with his lens flares and high level of bloom effects with his lights, as if the hunters are the secondary threat in this room. The lights seem to yell at me to hurry up and go into the next room, because there's nothing to see here. I bet anyone in the UNSC could get compensated for having their sight impaired by these ridiculous lights. Holy moly. But with this Reflow mod, this room looks so clean, and certainly still achieves that futuristic look. Funny enough, this mod makes me appreciate Halo 4's environment much more. The massive structures, no matter if you're looking at them from its interior or at its exterior, it's really impressive what 343 Industries was able to accomplish for certain structures and the environment around them for a game to be played on the Xbox 360 back in 2012. I believe this Reflow mod brings out a more organic look that could have been achieved originally if the intensity of bloom was reconsidered. The bloom, god rays, and lens flares may be intensified on the enhanced graphics for Halo 4 on PC. That's possible, and the intense lighting effects could have been utilized by 343 Industries originally to hide popping textures or draw distance limitations for Halo 4 on the Xbox 360. There are little tricks that game developers do in order to hide their game's limitations. If this is the case, I don't believe the intense lighting is necessary for Halo 4 on PC. You can see here how the Covenant's equipment is blown out as it radiates that blue lighting. Even the grass seems to be a bit more reflective than it should be. Bringing in the Reflow mod of the exact same location, the lighting projected from certain objects just is. It's not overdone, there doesn't seem to be an extreme level of saturation in color with a high intensity of lighting. If anything, I could see the heavy use of intense lighting being used in the first 5 minutes of the entire game of Halo 4. After all, Master Chief woke up from his ancient slumber of how long?
4 years, 7 months, 10 days.
Thanks, Cortana. If I was lucky enough to not be permanently blind after being asleep for over 4 years, I'm sure my eyes would have to adjust for the next few minutes, as every visible light source would be pretty glaring. But playing an entire game, feeling like I just woke up in every single level, gets a bit annoying. Rest assured, this mod knows what lighting effects to maintain in order to give you that sense of wonder and beauty, with a hint of foreboding carnage within an ancient alien planet. Push. If there is one thing you'll come across in Halo, it's a light bridge. And I don't know about you, but a narrow bridge with a several 100-foot drop on either side is the last place I think we should be putting intense lighting. No, Chief, don't do it. Moving on from the much-needed lighting changes, let's take a look at the heads-up display encompassed by the Chief's helmet. In the original version of Halo 4, there are detailed analytics associated with the visor's heads-up display, and the bottom and top portion of the helmet is just visible. In this Reflow mod, however, the heads-up display has been simplified. The bottom and top portions of the helmet are not visible. Instead, the HUD is akin to a more classic style, with the very subtle elevation markings on the sides maintained. The gameplay changes in Halo 4 Reflow are important to note. In the original version of Halo 4, I feel like the engagements feel a bit too one-on-one despite multiple enemies surrounding the Chief. This makes the game feel dull, as many levels make you go from a narrow passageway to a more open environment, only to bring you back to a narrow path once again. So how does this Reflow mod work with this level design? Well, the elites are slightly more evasive, so you'll have to pick and choose if you want to save them for last or take them out as quickly as possible. The grunts' health has been changed between their various ranks, therefore the higher ranked grunts take a bit more attention from the player, whereas the original seem to have unified health. The shield strength for the Jackal's shield, I've noticed, depletes quicker. But one of the really cool changes in this mod is the hard light shield. You can now toggle it to activate and sprint with it. The hard light shield doesn't last very long and it can be compromised if you're not careful, but sprinting with the hard light shield allows you to play in a more aggressive way than you ever could in retail. Despite criticism of sprinting ability in Halo, since Halo 4's campaign is built with sprint in mind, it's good to see two abilities being utilized for more daring playstyles to heat up the Halo 4 campaign. If you're not a fan of the Banshee's flying sound effects in Halo 4, then you'll be pleased to know that the sound effects have been replaced for that of a Phantom. It's simply not as loud. Let's compare. Alright, now for the original. Another way in which I feel this mod improves the gameplay from feeling too dull is by slightly changing some of the weapon behaviors. The storm rifle's rate of fire has been increased. But the altered storm rifle isn't good enough in this scenario. Instead, I'll resort to the UNSC weapons, in which I could find more ammo for them throughout the campaign. I feel this improves the gameplay because you're picking and choosing more often as for what strategies you really want to implement, whereas the original gameplay makes each engagement with one enemy too isolated. Therefore, you could dominate if you use one weapon, because it never seemed like the surrounding enemies were as much of a threat until it was their turn. Your allies can still get blasted in this mod, but they are seriously more effective than retail. Active camouflage is more useful even when you move at normal speed, and the fake friendly blips have been removed while using it. But be aware of those jackals, as they are more likely to hear and spot you. Although Halo 4's campaign isn't known to have very many opportunities for you to be stealthy, the indication for you to be able to hold 3 grenades of each type in this mod makes going out loud all too tempting. The increased velocity of the Mantis rockets and faster recharge time makes tedious cannon fodder point-and-click sections not as prolonged. The chain gun attached to the Pelican does not overheat, and the laser does double the amount of damage. Therefore, this section gets you moving along quicker, instead of trying to steer that big dog to point at some of those phantoms who don't seem to know why they're there in the first place. If you work on a Halo game, you've gotta love gondolas, just as much as light bridges. In this mod, you can snipe those pesky jackal snipers, and you can use the railgun, which fires immediately after being fully charged, and produces a larger effective radius on impact. The Prometheans in Halo 4 are now fun to fight. Watchers will immediately attempt to resurrect a knight, and the Watcher's shield strength to include their health has been reduced. The Knight's shields are weaker, but the Knights are more aggressive when attacking you. They do not teleport as much as retail, though you will still see knights teleport every so often. The pulse grenades are now more effective, resembling those found in Halo 5 Guardians. They will eviscerate your enemies, but the grenade won't see you as anyone special either, so mind the sphere. These marine allies are relentless.
Time. I'll close all you.
You do your job and I'll do mine, okay?
Let's talk about the back and forth dialogue with Chief and Cortana. Much of their dialogue while playing the game has been removed in this mod. This evokes the fact that the Master Chief is a man of few words. There is still dialogue between the two, but some of the unnecessary dialogue that doesn't add much to what's going on in the scene has been hand selected for removal. I believe that having a lot of dialogue between Chief and Cortana while you are playing through a level creates distance from the player and the Master Chief when that should not be the case. You'll notice when going to download this mod that you can decide on downloading this version that has all of the gameplay and visual changes implemented. But if you like the way the weapons are originally in Halo 4 and the AI, but you'd rather eliminate much of the overly used visual lighting, you do have the option to just download the graphical changes. I really enjoy what this mod offers, as there is an emphasis on speed and the gameplay is more clever. You'll be able to see all of the changes the mod author has created in the mod description on the Nexus Mod website by clicking on the link found in the description of this video. If you're not a big fan of Halo 4, or you would rather it play and look a little differently than retail, then you'll come to really appreciate what this mod does for Halo 4, and you should definitely check it out. A little over a year from now, Halo 4 will be over a decade old. Oh wow. To download this mod, click on the link in the description of this video. This is Wiggly Ghibli. You'll hear from me again.